Yesterday's budget hinted that Labor might actually be serious about tackling organised crime and terrorism. With a $130 million boost to track possible lone wolf terrorists, as well as a new focus on tracking down money laundering by organised crime. Hopefully those bikie bosses won't be able to splash cash just as easily, without having some scrutiny on where their money came from. Joining me now from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute is Dr. John Coyne. He's an expert in organised and international crime. Welcome to the program, John. Abdul Nasser Benbrika is possibly the most high-profile convicted terrorist in Australia, and he's expected to be released this year. While he was part of a terrorist cell and not a lone wolf in the strict sense, would Benbrika be the kind of person subjected to increased surveillance that the government has now put into the budget?
Look, absolutely. Let's be very honest straight up, though. First off, Benbrika, in accordance with the Vera 2R assessments, is and should not be released into Australian society. He represents, and certainly the experts in the field say he represents an unacceptable threat. We have some 21 offenders, convicted offenders, who are likely between now and 2027 to be released if in fact the continued detention orders are ceased. What that means is, and just in pure numbers, so to monitor those people at any given stage is 4 ASIO people or AFP surveillance officers, times that 3 times by coverage by 24 hours, add a couple of extra shifts for sick people, etc. And you start to get a really big picture of the big challenges ahead of when these 21 offenders return back into society. Having said that, though, the Vera 2R assessment should be a clear statement around and should be a clear assessment based on expert opinion on whether or not these offenders should be released back into our society and whether or not they represent an unacceptable threat.
Yeah, quite right on Benbrika. He's nothing but trouble for Australia. What about organised crime? I guess we often associate this more with the states, but what extra assistance has the federal government offered up in the budget?
Look, Amanda, they've continued on 2 lots of funding. So it's not exactly new funding. It's the extension of existing measures, hitting criminals where it hurts. Now, today it's hard to find organised crime groups that don't have an international connection. It's hard to find organised crime groups who aren't trying to money launder across borders. So the federal government has an important place and part to play in this. Unexplained wealth provisions, and to put it in very clear terms, those people who are living beyond their means, and by that I mean driving extensive collections of expensive cars, taking regular overseas holidays, flying in chartered aircraft, and that spending, including luxury goods, that can't be explained by their legitimate income. This task force should be targeting them and taking those as provisions of unexplained wealth and seizing that unexplained wealth to deny them the opportunities of enjoying the fruits of their crime.
Too right. Can't let crime pay. Thank you, John, very much for your insights.